He's everything. So when I talk about awakening, my assignment for this earth and for this generation is to see that you are awakened to, number one, first of all, that there is a God. I know that sounds kind of funny because we're all in here worshiping God for the last hour. But the truth is, I think there's a lot of Christian atheists. They just don't realize it. In fact, I remember last year at the call in Nashville. Hey, keep me informed on the time. Really good. Yell at me. What? Last year at the call, I was sitting there, with about 70,000 people. And we'd been talking, which was incredible. I loved it. I was sitting there, I was looking at those people, and I was thinking, we've been talking about how that gathering was going to be like the Elijah and Baal showdown. And it was. In the heavens, as we confronted and declared some things in the spirit realm. But I was thinking to myself, what would really happen? I wonder if it really did turn into an Elijah showdown and God showed up here like he did for Elijah. I mean, what would happen in this stadium if all of a sudden fire blast out of heaven in the middle of worship and just out in the middle of the field? You know what I think would have honestly probably happened more than anything else? It would be 70,000 people, or maybe 60,000 people going, oh my God, there is a God! Realizing that he really is for real. So first of all, let there be an awakening in the church that there is a God. And not only awakening that there is a God, not only a God, but the real God. The real God. The only one. There's not a bunch of real God. There's the real God. One God. I want you to see him for who he is. Last week, in my own prayer time, something in me just exploded. Casey, my son, had spoken on it at the ramp, and it just went off in my spirit. I was praying. Casey was talking the other day about how that sometimes the truth is we have this image in our mind of who we think God to be. And that actually can be a very dangerous thing, because he is who he is. Now follow me here. I want you awakened to the real God. Okay, kids? I want you awakened to who he is as a person, not who you've imagined him to be in your mind. Because he doesn't become what we want him to be. He is not all things to all people. That's right. And just because Moses called him I am, doesn't mean that he is to all. I know that sounds strange to you, just follow me. We get this image in our minds of who we perceive God to be. And so out of that imagery, out of that perception, and most of the time it's a wrong perception, that's the way we worship him, that's the way we live for him, and that's the way we love him. But the problem is that can be totally off and eternally devastating. Because in our minds sometimes we only perceive him as just maybe a part or a facet of who he is. I think Bill Johnson did one of the greatest jobs that I've ever seen done as far as revelation is concerned in revealing God as a good God. I mean, when I read his books, I melted just reading what a good God he is. It changes everything. It just changes everything that you do and why you do it. It helps you to see who he is in such a greater way. He is that burning love. He is that God of love. But the deal is, kids, sometimes, I'm not talking about the way Bill does it. I've seen, from my circles over here, I've sat with people in rooms before in counseling and seen the effects of the misconception of God only as just this merciful, merciful, merciful God. He's just all loving and mushy and merciful, and so that's why it really doesn't matter how I live my life, because, you know, He's just mercy, 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 and gracie, gracie, gracie. I mean, I'm something silly, but I've talked with Him. It's just all about His grace. And it is about His grace, and it is about His love, but that's still not the whole of who He is. And then in our American minds, I see people who have this misconception of God, that He's sort of like just Coach God, who's just all about cheering the champion inside of you, that He's just, you know, that He's just always for you. And that's true. Because the Word says, if God be for you, who can be against you? I think the word to focus on there is the word if. If God is for you. You can't just choose any lifestyle and God be for you. You can't just live any way that your flesh wants to live and think that God is just mercy, mercy, mercy for you. Come on, come on. Some people just have this concept, this idea of God, that He's just this far away God, if there is a God. He's just far away off in some distant heaven that dead people go to all when they die, because everybody goes to heaven because nobody goes to hell. I mean, that's how a lot of people think. That's how a lot of people in your world think. So that people are living in an imaginary relationship with an imaginary God, but not the real God. So the truth is, kids, it's not what other people say about Him that determines who He is. It's who He says that He is that determines how He is, and who He is, and what He is. And He is more than you've ever imagined Him to be. So who is God? I'll tell you who God is. He is who this book says that He is. He's not what you've imagined Him to be in your mind. He's not just how you perceive Him. This is who God is. You will not be judged when you stand before this real God according to the way you thought He was. You will be judged by Him according to who He said that He was and is and forever will be. Do you get that? We need an awakening to the real God. Not the little Christianese God, not the TV preacher God. The real God. And so, when you begin to discover the real God, you may be a little shocked, but at the same time, oh, He will so blow you away. And the thing is, I love about Him, listen, for us for now, this book is all that He's chosen to reveal to us, okay, of who He is. And that's really all that we will ever need in order to walk in the fullness of who He's destined us to be, okay? It's what's in this book. And you could spend the rest of your entire life just searching this book out and never comprehend it all. Okay, that's the joy of the journey. But you know what I love about Him too? He's so awesome, He can't even be contained in this book. The truth is, who is God? That question will eternally be answered. Who is God? That question will eternally. I love that, because 10 trillion years from now, I'm going to walk up to you and say, let me tell you about what I saw in Him today. Let me tell you what He revealed about Himself to me today. Let me tell you what I saw about God today. I believe even right now the Apostle Paul, who wrote all these books in here and was constantly blown away by God with his genius mind, if you could talk to the Apostle Paul today, you would be blown away to watch him. Right now in heaven, he's just still sitting there probably writing, going, oh, let me tell you, John, what I saw about him today. Oh, let me tell you what I saw in front of the throne today.